All right, thank you for joining me today. Good morning. I have a very special guest today, Mr. German Van. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Alexis. Thank you. Oh, and it's Germinal.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you, Germinal. Welcome to the Tell It Like It Is podcast. Today's a very special day. This is the Juneteenth 2021. And, this week they just made it a national holiday. So it's a very special day, I would say. And
Yes.
very, very, very fitting for the conversation we're going to have today. And I have to say that I came across Germinal in his work on Instagram, and I did some research on everything that you talk about, and I think we have a lot of ideas in common, and we have a lot of objectives that we want to see come to fruition. So I'm just excited to have this conversation and hopefully get others to join us in moving forward in a direction that is positive.
Definitely.
So I have to say just a little bit. Instead of doing a formal introduction, I think pieces of your bio will come out as we talk. I know that you're an immigrant from the Ivory Coast.
Yes.
How does it feel being in America for you?
I wanted to come to America since age 10. It's very difficult to explain why at age 10 I cannot give you logical reasons for coming to the US. At age 10, I couldn't give you that, oh yeah, the US is the land of opportunities and blah, blah, blah. No, at age 10, I didn't know that. What I knew at age 10 was that there was something special about the US. That's all I knew. I didn't know what that special thing was. And I discovered what that special thing was as I grew up, obviously. And that special thing is my mindset. I have a very Anglo-Saxon mindset. And that Anglo-Saxon mindset is that you favor the individual over the group. And if you favor the individual over the group, therefore you favor anything that deals with individual achievements or property rights and etc. And I'm someone who is a strong individualist. That's me. I believe that I deserve the fruit of my labor. If I've worked tirelessly to get something, I deserve to have the full reward of it. And in African societies, we put the group over the individual. So we're saying that if you've achieved something, you have to share whatever you've earned from your achievement and give it to others. And I disagree with that. I entirely disagree with that. I do not like that mentality at all. So in the US, it's the opposite. In the US, as an individual, you've achieved something, it's for you. Now you decide to do whatever you want with the fruit of your labor. If you want to share it, but at least it's your decision. It shouldn't be something that society imposes on you. And in African societies, as I say, it's the opposite. Like society imposes that on you. They say that no matter how you did it, you have to share what you earn with others.
So do you think that a billionaire has a responsibility to the community?
Oh, yes, absolutely. To some extent, yeah, of course, yeah. And plus, it is in his best interest to have a responsibility to the community. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, yes, individual achievement is crucial, but it is important to give back also because there are some people who have helped you along the way, specifically your parents, etc. So it is important to give back to the community what you've earned in the sense that when I say giving back, it's for instance creating infrastructures that will help others in the community also thriving. And plus billionaires do it, of course, for the money. To when they do their philanthropy, it's not because they have a great heart necessarily. It's a way of not paying taxes because donations. If you make a lot of donations, you don't pay taxes. But billionaires, they do philanthropy. So of course, because they don't want to pay taxes, but also for their reputation as well. Because billionaires are not concerned with consuming. They have all this money. They don't care about consuming. They care about protecting their image. So they would rather, so when they've reached a certain level of wealth, they would rather they would rather redistribute that wealth in a way that is going to help other people. But to me, it's something that people should do only when they have achieved a certain level of wealth. If someone is still accumulating, but the accumulation hasn't reached, let's say, an optimal point, he shouldn't be forced to redistribute unless he or she wants it. I don't think society should force him to redistribute what he earned.
So one of the things, African Americans are, do you think they're owed something by America?
What do you mean?
Um, in the form of a reparations from all of their years of not being paid for their labor and slavery?
Uh, the question on reparations, personally, I don't think reparation will necessarily repair anything. I understand that, yes, for instance, the Jews have been paid. So it isn't fair that African Americans have not been paid for what has happened to them. Personally, I think at this point, reparation won't be even necessary for African Americans to move forward. I think they can move forward if they want to. And the reason why I believe they can move forward if they want to is because they have all the possibilities and opportunities available to them in this country that other people don't.
So you said two things.
Yeah.
You said they can move forward without it, and if they had it, it wouldn't help.
Yeah.
The question is, do you think they're owed reparations?
Yes, they're old. Yes. I would say they're old because at the end of the day, they were slaves for over a century at the very least in this country. They had they worked for free for a very long time. And other communities such as the Jewish community has has been paid damages for what has happened to them. So it would be hypocritical of me to say they're not owed at all. They are owed, that's for sure. Now the question is it going to necessarily benefit them? That's a different debate. But
Exactly.
we both agree that yes, they're owed.
Exactly. Um, what what are some of the issues you think America needs to address to live up to its full potential?
Some of the issues that America needs to address. What America needs to address is to stop being deterministic. What I mean by stop being deterministic is that America need in America specifically, we need to stop uh, saying that whatever that is happening to us is based on external factors. I believe that whatever happens to us is the consequence of our actions. Of course, there's some external factors that human beings cannot control every single variable of their lives, of course. Like an accident, for instance, is something that you don't really control, or a sudden cancer that grows in your body. This is something you don't necessarily control. It depends. Let's say if you have like lung cancer because you smoke cigarette, that's your fault. But if it's like another form of cancer, I don't know, the one that Bob Marley got.
Right.
Yeah, that's different. So, but most of what is happening to us is based on what we do. So let me give you a very simple example. Ray Dalio today is a billionaire. And you have people like LC saying, oh, billionaires to pay their fair share, and all these rhetoric. But can you blame Ray Dalio for starting to invest in stocks at age 12? people are acting as if his wealth came like fell off the sky, like it's something abnormal. The guy started working at it for a very long time.
Well, who is this?
Same with I'm talking about Ray Dalio.
Who's that?
Ray Dalio is the hedge fund manager of Bridgewater Associates,
Okay.
or even Warren Buffett. Say I can give Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett did a little bit what Ray Dalio did. So they start investing in stocks at a very, very early age. When I say early age, it's not 16 years old. It's like 10, 11 years old.
Right.
At 10, 11 years old, I was playing soccer with my friends on the street back home. I did not even know that stocks exist. At 10, 11 years old, most people are playing video games. But you have these guys investing in stocks, and today they're billionaires. Should we blame them why they became billionaires? This is something they start doing for a very long time. So my point is that whatever happens to most of what is happening to you is what you have done. It's a matter of preparation. It's a matter of what you do in the process. If you're someone who thinks long term, eventually everything you do is going to pay off. And someone like Warren Buffett is a long term guy. Even his investment strategy is purely long term. He doesn't do short term stuff. Everything he does is for years to come. And he was even once they were asking him like, your strategy to become rich is so simple. Why nobody's applying it? He said, well, people don't want to get rich slowly. That was his answer. That tells you everything you need to know. People are not patient. So it it really depends on what you do. If you work toward a goal that you want to achieve and you're willing to put not just the time and the effort, but having the patience, eventually you're going to get the fruit of your labor. But if you're impatient, you're going to blow everything away because you want immediate gratification. So in America, I think there's a ton of opportunities. There are over 1 million people coming every year in this country. There's a reason why. There's a reason why there's over 1 million people coming every single year here. Why they don't go? Why there's not over 1 million people going to China? Why there's not 1 million people going to Japan or to Brazil or to Germany? There's a reason why. It's because the system there is not designed in a way where economic mobility is possible. I'm not saying that it is impossible. It is, but it is difficult. Let me ask you this.
Let me jump in with this question.
Yeah.
Can capitalism support everyone? Can everyone succeed in capitalism?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Do you think if it wasn't for capitalism, someone like Jay-Z would be a billionaire? Who are we kidding here?
I'm not asking if it works. My question is, can every person be employed? Every person, every young person is there a job for everyone?
I believe there is, yeah. But now the question is, people would be willing to do it? That's the thing. Because for instance, now it's summertime. So there are people mowing the grass for, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks a day or something like that. Is everyone want to mow the grass for instance? No, for instance, me, I don't want to do that. But there's someone else who's taking that opportunity. So my point is that there's always something for someone. But I think when it comes to certain jobs, it comes to desperation. You have to be literally desperate to do that kind of job. I can give my own example. When I graduated with my master's in politics in 2017, I couldn't find a job, so I started working in the restaurant industry again because I did it once when I graduated from college. And I was working as a dishwasher. And on top of working as a dishwasher, I was even cleaning the toilets. And I was like, here is a guy who has a master's degree in political science from one of the best universities in Washington, D.C., cleaning toilets. But I need money. You see what I mean? I needed the money. So when you really, really need something, you will take whatever comes your way until you find something better. So I believe that there is always work for someone somewhere in a capitalistic society, because we live in a privatized society where companies are growing like mushrooms everywhere. People just by themselves open the LLC. Hey, I'm open for business. If you need labor, you're going to say, hey, I'm hiring.
So the people who are, to the millions of people who are unemployed, why are they unemployed?
Well, unemployment is a cycle, I believe. It is a cycle. And on top of that, I don't think everyone can work everywhere at the same time. For example, you know who is the poorest people on the planet?
No.
Children. Children don't have an income, right? Because they live with their parents and stuff like that. So you see that children don't work. Like even when us were working, you have people at universities who do not work. They're going to school, but those people are they are able-bodied to
Right.
work, but they have to finish their curriculum, the school, before being employable on the labor market. So it is a cycle. And on top of that, there's now like some technical aspects such as like wages, sometimes like when wage don't adjust with demand for labor and etc. But these parts are technical. But my point is that people do work, but they do not work all at the very same time, because life is a cycle. While some people are working in a given industry, some are, I don't know, at school doing something. So it will be so it and when someone is going to retirement, that's when like other people, that's when, let's say, companies now hiring more young people and etc. So it goes into a cycle. So I think that there is, in under capitalism, there is a lot of possibilities for work. It's just it depends on the type of job that people want to do. And as I said, everything is also a cycle. So I don't think that everyone can work at the same time.
Right. So everyone can't work at the same time. So at any given moment, you're going to have a group of millions of people who are unemployed. So,
That's a possibility. Yeah.
well, that's the reality. It's more than it's what's happening. This is the way it works, right? You have people unemployed, and while the system's flourishing and it works the way it is, it's not designed to keep everyone employed.
I guess, as I say, I guess it is a possibility, because how can you prove tangibly that it is not designed to keep everyone employed?
We have millions of people who are looking for jobs and there's not jobs for them. And
Well, but unemployment has been shrinking since last year.
as these people are looking for jobs, there's just, jobs have been cut at the same time. If you
Yeah,
look over time, jobs have been reduced.
no, actually, it's the contrary. Many jobs have been created, because when you look at uh, when you look at the data from last year, unemployment in May 2020 was at 14 or 13%. Now is at 5.8%. So if from 13 it's at 5, what does it mean? More jobs have been created.
Right. So you're more into statistics than I am, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of leaning on you to kind of shed light on the numbers in a way that gives clarity, right? When there's a point when you first go unemployed, that it counts in the unemployment statistics. And after you've been unemployed for a certain amount of time, you're no longer included in the statistics. Are you aware of this?
Yes, I am.
Right. So everyone who's unemployed is not listed in the when they show you the number of unemployed, it counts for the recently unemployed, not everyone who's unemployed, right? And if you look from the 60s up to now, we've lost a lot of blue collar industrial jobs all the way up to now. And the jobs that are being created are tech jobs and these other kinds of things. So as a statistician, you know that you can call the numbers in any way to prove a point, but the reality is the reality. And I've heard, the concept of capitalism. I think capitalism isn't perfect, and I think everyone can agree on that. And I think we need to be critical of capitalism. And I'm not saying that as a socialist, and I'm not saying that we need to get rid of capitalism. I think realistically, we need to modify the systems to solve the problems. And we need to be critical of the system so that we can solve the problems. So that's why I was asking you before, what do you think what are the problems that America has? So the idea of the conversation is, let's talk critically about what the issues are, and let's hypothesize about solutions and what the solutions will look like so that America can be better going forward. And one of the problems is having millions of people who are actively seeking work unemployed. And you also have a lot of people who are underemployed. Like you said, you have a master's degree and you're cleaning toilet. So there's a lot of people out there with master's degree who's doing high school level work. And that's an issue. So all of these things are complex. And I'm not necessarily blaming capitalism or blaming billionaires. I'm just trying to flesh out some of the problems so we can kind of have a conversation about it.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm personally very concerned about is the toll on the environment. So that's not a black and white issue, right? The environment affects everyone. There's a lot of corporations who, as a result of their products, it takes a toll on the environment. And there's been a lot of talk about making it better, and I think there has been progress. Do you see where we can make more progress?
On the environment, I think they could make more progress if they let companies trying to solve the problem, I would say. Because I believe in the principle that no one can take better care of your property than yourself. So if there are more companies that deals with environmental issues that are digging into the problem, they will find solution that will actually bettering everyone else, because there will be competition, and competition of course always bring prices down. Because I have to say that when things are the problem of the environment, when it's like too central, I do not say when it's central at all. I think the state has a role to play, do not get me wrong. But when it is too centralized, where it is only in the domain of the state to manage that issue, it becomes ineffective. And the reason why it's become ineffective is because bureaucrats have no responsibility. When they pass a policy, and if that policy fails, they will not pay the price for it. They won't pay the price for it. But if you create your environmental agency, which is a private agency, you decide to do something about the environment, but it doesn't work out, you pay the price for it, because people will not want to put their trust in you anymore. Like they will not pay for your service for you to do it. But bureaucracy is the opposite. What they will say, oh, well, it didn't work out because we didn't have enough resources. So what we have to do, we have to raise more taxes and this and that. So we are going to do CPR on on the new issue from the old one, and it doesn't work. So I think there should be a private public partnership on the environment on the environment issue. So that I think like private public partnership is the best way to mitigate most of the problems in society. I don't think the public alone can do everything the same way the private sector alone can do everything. it is extremes never bring good outcomes. So I think it should be a partnership where both work, because when there's a partnership, it leads to a better and efficient allocation of resources compared to if the private sector has to do everything alone or the public sector has to do everything alone. But of course, if I had to pick between the private and the public sector, I'll pick the private sector, because the private sector is where wealth is created. So, but I don't think the private sector alone can fix every problem. And I don't believe in the word fix problem. I would say trade off. Because when we're trying to mitigate an issue, so to lower the impact of that issue, it's going to increase in another aspect. So that's the thing with trade-off. I don't think there is necessarily like a way to fix things, because problems are part of human nature. They always come. So I think it's about like finding the best trade-off to mitigate the issue.
So if we're reducing our CO output, we're going to have a benefit on the environment, but now we're going to have a new pollution source coming from the electrical or.
Yes, there's always something that will come up. Yeah, there's always something that will come up. It's a matter of like input output.
That absolutely makes sense. And I do agree. I do think that we need better ways to keep accountable the progress.
Absolutely.
And if you just have politicians um, passing laws, then it's you don't have tangible goals, and you want to have tangible goals with outcomes and rewards for meeting these outcomes. That absolutely makes sense. I'm all for that. Now, we can also agree that too much privatization can also be an issue, because when you privatize, you're thinking profits and you're not thinking greater good, like privatizing prisons or something like that.
Yeah, it is true that privatization is an issue, and here everything depends on the role of the state. I am personally not necessarily in favor of privatizing prisons, because the prison issue is a matter of the justice system, and I think the justice system should be under state control. I don't believe that the justice system should be privatized. I know there are like extreme libertarians who believe that the law should be privatized. I don't think it should be privatized. The thing is that people who support the right or right-wing policies think in terms of efficiency, and people who support left-wing policies think in terms of the social, the greater good, the social, and everything. So it is two antagonistic views that are clashing. But that's where we have to redefine the role of the government. In my opinion, I think you have a different opinion than me on that. I think the role of the government should be limited to uh, uh, protecting the welfare of people, like the physical welfare of people. That's why we have the police and the military. It should be here to adjudicate dispute. That's why we have a judicial system, and it should be here to facilitate the implementation of infrastructures for roads, bridges, railways, and etc.
Right.
But when it comes uh, to school or healthcare or any other aspect of society, I think privatization has a better end at it. But that does not mean that it should be only and solely privatized, of course. But we need like public schools, public hospitals, and etc. But even when you look at public and private, when you look at the results, you see that, for instance, that private hospitals have a better output than public hospitals. For instance, my wife is a nurse, and okay, so now she's an education coordinator in hospitals. She has a higher position, but she worked as a nurse for almost 10 years, and she used to work at a public hospital in Washington D.C. And now she's working at a private hospital, and she's always telling me the difference in terms of output. and in terms of how things are managed. She was telling me that in the public hospital, people don't really care. Why they don't really care? Because it's public. No one has responsibility for the resources that are being managed. Compared to a private hospital, the one who owns the hospital is the one that is responsible for the management of things. If things go wrong, as I said earlier, if things go wrong, he's paying the price for it. But in the public, things go wrong, it doesn't matter. People, because no one is responsible. So when it comes to healthcare, education, and everything, like we again need a private public partnership. For instance, if we brush real quick on education, I've seen the data, and charter schools perform much better than government-owned school. And government and this is one thing I believe it should be drastically changed in this country is the assignment. Because based on where you were born or based on where you live, you go to the public school. If you don't have money, you go to the public school of the area you live. And to me, that's wrong, because for someone who lives in the project, basically he's doomed. He's doomed because he goes to a school where teachers don't care. They're protected by the teachers union. They're making their money, but those guys are doomed. And Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman say that if you implement a voucher system, it will enable low-income parents to have a choice to decide for the children where to go to school. And of course, any rational parent would want his child to go to have a better education. And charter schools offer that. Why? Because charter schools are publicly funded, but they're privately managed. And the problem is that now, like, local governments are trying to undermine charter schools because they are publicly, because they're funding these schools, but they don't have control over the curriculums.
So does systematic oppression exist?
Systematic oppression? I don't think so. I know you want me to say yes, but no.
But you just
I don't think so. No.
You just said it yourself. Someone born in the projects is doomed. Those are your
but
words.
no, I know what I said. But when you say, because the reason why I don't like the systematic thing is because people constantly use that as a shield to justify also why they don't get things done.
Now,
and that is the deterministic. Hold on, let me finish my point. And that is the deterministic approach that I talk about at first.
Absolutely.
Right?
Exactly. Are those conservative views?
Who, my views?
Yes.
I guess you can qualify as that. Yeah, I guess.
So, listen, this conversation, this is a part of a larger conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are more well-read with big degrees than I am. Mm-hmm. So I kind of come in as a listener, right? Yeah. And I don't profess to know anything or to be an expert or any of that kind of stuff. And the Tell It Like It Is podcast is a chance for people to just tell it like it is, right?
Yeah.
Not because you're an expert means you know more or less. You know, the reality is the reality. So we're really trying to see what the reality is. So when we're talking about systematic oppression, there's a part of you who wants to say no. But there's a part of you who's saying poor people are doomed.
Yeah. So and here's the thing. Because I see what you're saying. The issue is more complex than that. And the reason why is because at the end of the day, they're facts. Black people have been oppressed, and that's a fact for a very long time by a system.
And they still are.
Okay. This is where we're not.
No, I'm asking you if you're saying they still are or not.
I don't think they still are. Because if they were still oppressed as you believe they are, we wouldn't have that many Black people who are successful in this country. Because I come from another country where I've seen possibilities. Because you see, that's the thing with African Americans. They limit the thing to this country. And I understand why. It's their country, that's where they live. Hold on. In Europe, you will never see a Black man becoming a millionaire, not even billionaire, millionaire, just by his business. Unless he's an athlete, he can't make it. In Europe, like the black people who sing, they're just thousands. That's it. The only millionaires in Europe are athletes, mostly soccer players. But in this country, in the United States, is a country where you can leave everything you have back home and come and still be able to make it. Because here, as I said, economic mobility is possible. So if there was no economic mobility available in this country, as I said, Barack Obama, first of all, would never be president of this country. Jay-Z would never be a billionaire. Snoop Dogg, all these guys will never make their money. So my point is that in this country, people have more choices. And now you were saying, okay, people who live in the project. But here's the thing: do you know how much you need, for instance, in Atlanta to open a business?
No.
$49.
Okay.
With $49, you can open a business.
Okay.
And work toward it to make and basically grow because a business normally always grow in value over time. It's like a real estate. So my point is that everything also depends on people's choices. And of course there is their environment that is affecting them, affecting them to some degree. I'm not going to deny the environment aspect. If you live in an area where people are doing drugs all the time, shooting each other all the time, it's going to affect you. You won't think in terms of, oh, I have $50 in my pocket, let me go online and open my LLC and stuff like that. This stuff that won't come to your mind. Now I understand. And so now the thing is, when we come back to the school issue, this is stuff that could be changed at the local level. All politics is local at the end of the day. It could be changed at the local level. But the problem is that is even the same people who claim that they support Black liberation that prevent Black people from having access to the school of their choices. Because
Who are
that's
those people?
what?
Who are those people?
For instance, people like Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson stood consistently against the voucher system.
Okay.
He always sent his own kids to private school.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
So the question is, so me and you were talking about this,
Mm-hmm.
but the reason why I'm staying on it and not just moving on is because I think you believe in truth.
I do believe in truth. Yeah.
So what we're talking about here is there is a conservative mindset that is slow to acknowledge the reality because for complex reasons. And I'm really trying to get you to acknowledge something that you're saying is true. These schools are failing, and there is a way to fix it. We agree on that.
But the question is, who is failing these schools?
Who's causing the schools to fail?
Yeah.
So let me just start it at the ground level.
Okay.
The parents need to take responsibility for the children that they're sending into these schools.
Okay.
The teachers need to take responsibility for the way they show up in these classrooms. The administrators at the school level needs to manage these teachers and manage these students in a way that's going to help them progress. And the school directors for the district need to take ownership to fix these things. And the political people need to make sure the school is adequately funded, and they need to make sure the system is flexible enough to fix it.
But here's the thing though. The part that you probably don't see is that government is a competitor. You see, government don't reflect people's interest. It is in theory that it does, but in practice it doesn't. And the reason why it doesn't is because Government is also run by people who are self-interested. It is not in the interest, unfortunately, it is not in the interest of the political, the superintendent, all the school, those who work in the public to fix the schools. That's the problem. Because if they don't fix this, if they fix the school, they won't have any control over it anymore. Because here's the thing, it's all a matter of mindset when it comes to profit. A private entity thinks in terms of profit. Okay? A public entity, the way for them to make profit is for things to not work. Because if things work, they become irrelevant. They become irrelevant. So things should not work so that they can keep implementing policies. Oh, the first policy didn't work. We're going to implement a new policy and hope that this one will work. And then it doesn't work, and then they implement a new, and it's a cycle that is going on. And a practical trade-off for that was the charter schools, which I said are publicly funded. So a low-income person doesn't have to spend a dime. And on top of that, the charter school are privately managed, which means that there is now discipline checking on how kids are doing the homework, that everything is in order, and people are doing their chores. But in the government-owned school, it's not that, because people don't care. Someone who works for a government-owned entity, first of all, cannot be fired, so he has no incentive to do things better. But when you know that your career is at stake, you're gonna man up and make things better.
So what you're saying is, and I'm going to use an example to kind of give clarity that agrees with what you're saying.
Mhm.
If the doctor gives you the remedy in the first time, you're not going to come back to the doctor for the next 5 years with the problem. So it's in the doctor's interest for you to keep coming back time and time again for more and more remedies. That's pretty much what you're saying.
Unfortunately, we have doctors because people are getting sick. But here, the thing is that your analogy is not good, because sickness is a natural process of the human condition. You cannot live a life without getting sick. You have to get sick at some point. So it's not like the doctor is doing on purpose. No, it's not. So that's why I say your analogy is not a good analogy, because even if the doctor is giving you the best remedy so that you won't have to come, you're still gonna go back to the doctor at some point, because you're a human being and you're gonna feel sick at some point in your life. So you're gonna
I
have
like
to go
that.
back to the
I
doctor.
agree with that as well. So to get back to the school, what you're saying is how, the system is designed for to stay broken.
Yeah, because and especially for
The other
to
thing.
maintain poor people.
Exactly. So when someone comes in who's optimistic and energetic to make things better, how does the system treat that person?
The system finds a way, I believe, to block him, to prevent that person from, uh, from making because there are people who genuinely wanted to change things. And that's why they get into politics. And you see, and this is the romantic part of politics, is that everyone who gets into politics always go with the best of intentions and the best of ideas. But we don't judge policies by their intentions. We judge them by the results. And the problem is that the process between the intention and the results, there's something that has changed. You see, and
So
and and there's, and there's a reason why, for instance, in Washington we call it the deep state. The deep state. I can even give you a very simple example. Look at Trump, for instance. Trump say, "I'm going to come drain the swamp and blah blah blah." Today, the guy became a politician too. Today, the guy is a cog in the machine too. So that is to say that, and that's the vicious cycle of politics. I wanted to be a politician. That's what studied political science. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. It's always you start with the best of intention. I'm gonna come and do this and do this and do this and do this. But once you're in, people who are here before say, "Hey, sit down. We got to talk to you." The things we have a way of doing things here, and that's the thing. Because as I said, and I'm coming back to my argument again. The reason why the public sector doesn't provide effective solutions is because they're not necessarily doing it on purpose. It's not we say that, oh, we're going to give them a bad policy so that they will come back. I don't think it's necessarily their genuine intention, but that's unfortunately the result that we see. But I'm not saying that policies always fail either, but most policies do not deliver the effective result that they intend to deliver. Or if they deliver it, it's for short term. It's for short term, and then the pain is back again. The pain is back again because because Alex, it's important that you all see politics from a try to think outside the box and see politicians as rational, self-interested people like you and me.
Self-preservation.
Exactly. They're entrepreneurs too, but their profit is votes. Their profit is to retain themselves in office. Whereas our profit is for people to buy our service. That's you and I profit because we're working, we're using our own resources to make things work. But politicians don't use their own resources. They use the resources of the public, which is our taxes.
So we 100% agree on that.
Yeah.
And you've said so you've given an example about the school system being broken.
Yeah.
And just so you understand, when someone says there's systematic oppression, what they're saying is that the system is designed in a way that makes it harder for me to succeed. So you've already acknowledged that that is the case. And at the same time, I want to agree with you and say some people they see the mountain in front of them, and instead of trying to climb the mountain, they stay where they are and say, it's too big of a mountain. So at the same time, you're acknowledging that there's no space for these millions of people to get employed. You're acknowledging
all
that
at once. There's space for them to get employed at some point, but not like all at once at the very same time, if that makes sense. Because of course, things evolve. Nothing is static. That's the thing. Today, you may be unemployed, and tomorrow you may find a job. So the millions of people unemployed that you're talking about cannot be employed all at the same time.
Well, Germinal, one of the things I wanted you to precursor to do before this conversation, and I know it's a big task, and I need to do some research as well so that I can kind of quantify these numbers. But there's a lot of adults who, whether it's a high school diploma and below, who aren't working, and they're not on the unemployed numbers, right? So like I said, the unemployed numbers just quantifies those who were recently unemployed and still job searching. It doesn't count those people who, graduated from high school and haven't worked in 10 years. They're not on the list. There's a lot of these people who haven't worked in 10 years and they're raising a family on welfare. And it's not that they don't want to work, it's just that they're not employable.
But why they're not employable?
They're not employable because they haven't worked in 10 years.
Exactly. It's a loss of skill. And unfortunately, and the thing, and once again, I'm going to give you my own example. I told you that I had degrees in political science, and I wasn't able to find a consistent job in my field,
right,
for a very long time, until last year when I decided to train myself in mathematics and statistics. And that's when I was able finally to get a job as a data analyst for the company I'm currently working for, because the skills that are in demand are quantitative skills. I'm not saying that if you don't have quantitative skills, you will never find a job. Of course, there's always a job somewhere for someone, but these are the jobs currently in demand. And when you haven't worked for so long, as you said, in 10 years, well, no one wants to employ you. And you see, it's because when you do like odd jobs, those stuff, they don't count it. They don't count it in the statistics unless you've done at least a year at your job, that's when they say that you're fully employed for XYZ amount of time. When you've done at least one. Because for instance, I'm going to give you my example again. My wife and I recently purchased a condo, but over the past 2 years, I didn't have a consistent job. So they couldn't put my name on the loan with her. I'm a co-owner of the condo, but not a a co-loaner, if I can put it that way.
You're not a co-borrower.
Exactly, because I didn't have a consistent job, so basically a consistent income over the past year. So these are also details, that are not they're not taken into account in the statistics.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Like, for instance, so people who've been, let's say, working, who've been living on welfare for 10 years, living on welfare, they haven't worked for, let's say, for 10 years. It's not that they haven't literally not worked. It's just that they haven't found a consistent job for 10 years. If that could make sense.
There are millions of people in America, poor people, living below the poverty level, who are raising families on welfare, and they haven't worked in 10 years. Period. These people live in these rundown communities, and they're like the forgotten members of our society. Their kids go to school, and the teachers don't have a great expectation. The district doesn't have a great expectation. So all of these things kind of lead to a cycle. There's I've heard people say there's two Americas, but there's more than two Americas. You have the Americas of people who do very well, people who do well, people who do okay, people who are struggling, and people who are just trailing at the bottom. And for the most part, politicians, the average you and me, we don't think about those people at the bottom. So when we talk about America's doing well and the land of opportunity, these people are just scraping the bottom. There's a cycle of teenage pregnancy, and it's just kind of like perpetuating, and they're just there, and it just is what it is. So you have people driving Rolls Royces, people taking out loans for condos, and you have those people who are like basically squatting. So this is America. This is the norm. But you don't see those people on TV. No one's talking about them. And me personally, I know they exist. These are the kind of people who just stay at the bottom. So a part of what I'm saying is we have to do something about that, because that's a part of the real America. That's not.
Yeah, and now I agree with you, but we're definitely going to diverge on the approach.
No, but that's what we're trying to figure out what we
can. Yeah, and the reason why I'm saying we're going to diverge.
What is your approach to those people? How do we help those people?
Sure. So here's the thing.
Or do we rely on them to help themselves out of that situation?
Yeah.
They should get themselves out.
But hold on. Let me say this first and foremost. First of all, the reason why you have the high rate of pregnancies and all the poverty going around in these areas is because of the welfare culture. The welfare culture, because you see, the welfare state had the best of intentions once again, but intentions and consequences are not the same things, as you know. Today, the welfare state has made Black people worse off than they were even before the Civil Rights Act.
Absolutely.
Right? Gangster culture, all of that was not part of us. That was not part of us. Being hood, ratchet, gangster culture, all of these are behaviors that unfortunately maintain people in a poverty mindset, therefore in poverty, in material poverty. You cannot agree with, you cannot tell me that, hold
I
on, you
agree.
cannot tell me that
All right. I agree with that.
this is, it's not
How
good.
do we get them out?
How do we get them out? It's simply, once again, by first, charter schools give low-income parents the choice to bring their kids to the best schools, I mean, to a better school. As I say, once again, charter schools are, hold on, charter schools are publicly funded. So they don't have to spend money for the kid to get an education. And they can still get the education of the private school, like private school type. That's what the charter school is. Who's preventing that? Is politicians. Trade school. Trade school should be made affordable because school is not for everyone. Perfect. And that's okay. But if someone has a skill and he realizes that he can do something about it, and I believe that every single individual on the planet has a talent some way, somehow about something. So that person should go to trade school. I'm in favor of vocational education. I even think that college, honestly, if it's not for a specific type of study that you know it will make you money, I don't think people should even go to college. I would rather go to a vocational school, learn how to become a plumber, and then make money. And that's even how it used to be in the 60s and 70s. That's how it used to be. So charter schools for general studies, trade school for people who can find a way to use their skills, specifically their hands, and also creating small businesses within the community. But in order to create, hold on, but in order to create small businesses, the few things that need to be done, we need investors. But for investors to come, we need safety. Unfortunately, when you have gangs and stuff like that, people are not willing to come. And I'm using that because it's the very same with African countries. You will never see investors going to invest in a country that is politically unstable. Simple as that. It's the same. What the example I gave you is a macro level. For our community is the micro level, but it's the same thing. So that's the thing. We need a way to change policing. But now the policing is the policing here is that we always send white cops into black neighborhoods. So we need more black cops. So we need some of those young kids who aren't doing much to get in the academy. That's a way. But now, do they want to? You see, because if we have more cops enrolling in the police academy, then we can say, oh, okay, go. You should go and patrolling your own community. That's it. But there are more whites than blacks. That's why we have more whites in black communities, and we know how it ends. But you see what I mean? So there are many possibilities. But I insist once again on the charter school because I strongly believe that education is the most powerful weapon to change society.
I agree.
Absolutely. And charter school is the best way to make low-income people, to give low-income people a chance to have access to economic mobility. Now it's politicians who have to allow that. But if they don't allow it, low-income people will still be doomed because they don't allow it, because they're still working against charter school for charter school to not operate efficiently. Because I wrote a book recently about it, Black America and the Illusion of Political Power, where unfortunately we tend to rely too much on political power, thinking that, okay, we have this guy in power, things will change for us. Things haven't. God knows for how long. And it's not just even Black America, it's even Africans. We have unfortunately we have this enchantment about political power, thinking that there is a providential man that would come and change things. But when you look at Indians, Asians, or even Jews, maybe not Jews, but because Jews now they're like big as a community, they control a lot. But when you look at minorities, Indians and Asians, they don't mingle in politics. You never see them. You never see them. Yesterday, right? I went to help my father-in-law because he's a carpenter. He was working at a house. So my wife and I, we went to help him. And we were driving around the neighborhood, and I was looking at those houses. I'm like, oh my God. So the first stereotype, oh, rich white people, Indians living there. I'm like, holy smoke. But these people are, all they do is what? They focus on the education and the data science, and they're making money. They don't mingle with anything else. So I think also it's all about educating people's mindset. Like Black people as a community have to think about how to become financially conservative, how to become frugal. And one of the very problems we have is that whenever one of us start making money, they go giving the money to white businesses. You know, and you know that, like, we go to Louis Vuitton, Gucci, but like they buy things they don't need,
Right.
and it goes into white businesses. But when you look at Asians, and even like in DC, for instance, in Anacostia, you see liquor store every 30 feet. Liquor store, and those liquor store are owned by who? Asians and Indians,
Right.
Pakistanis there, and they are the children at the cashier, teaching the kid how to count the money and everything. And this is something, and us, we people in Disney don't even think about it.
Right.
They get drunk all day. It's sad because I've been there. I've seen it. Trust me, Alex. I know what I'm talking about. I've seen it. But my point is that these things are possible. It can be done. It's just that we need to change how schooling is done is in these communities. How schooling is done, to open more trade school, because trade school is one of the best way to uh, to facilitate economic mobility. One of the best ways. Someone who can work with his hands is good to go.
Germinal, you're on point. I absolutely agree with you. You've hit the nail on the head. I think we've talked a perfect amount about exactly what can be done. And that's something that we really need to take seriously. At this point, I'm going to have us take a brief break and we'll be right back.
Sounds good. Thank you, man.